Knights can be incredible powerful pieces, but they can also be weak. Then the question is, how do we make a knight strong or bad? So weak. For this purpose, I have chosen one of my games where we are going to dig deeper and try to understand what is going on. And before we start with the moves, let's just evaluate the position. It is black's turn here, and as you can see, the material is completely equal, the distribution of the material is equal. Both sides have the pair of bishops and each one knight. So the only thing exchanged so far was one pawn for each side and one knight. The big difference or imbalance you can recognize are the strong bishops of black and the rather weak ones here, but you have always to watch out for pressure on g7 by the black squared bishop on b2. So this might be a dangerous piece at some point. What else is very important here? Well, of course, the pawns. Look at the pawn structure. Black has a pawn on e4, and these e4 pawns for black or e5 pawns for white often guarantee black or white, the side with the pawn, a strong attack. Because the black side with the e4 pawn and the white side with the e5 pawn are controlling a lot of squares around the opponent's king here. So therefore, it is good to watch out for these tactics. So logically, what black should play here is knight to e5, putting the knight on a stronger place. And now you can see that this knight is looking for f3 because the queen on g5 is also a very powerful piece, pinning the g-pawn. And now, believe it or not, but white has a very difficult time, and a desperate move like knight to d5 might already be the best option for the white player. By playing knight to d5, white is not really sacrificing a pawn, because if this pawn gets taken, then simply bishop takes e5, and white just got back the material, and the knight on e5 here is stronger than the knight on d5. Therefore, black wants to use it and goes knight to f3 check. After this check, white has two options. Either to take with the bishop or go king to g1. If bishop takes, then simply e takes f3, and now there's a mating threat on g2, therefore knight to f4 covering this threat, and still you just take the pawn on g2, and white has a very weak king here, and after bishop d6 this knight might be exchanged, and black has a very pleasant position and is completely winning here. Let's go back. So what's the alternative? Here, king to g1, but then you have to watch out for this weak pawn here on the one hand, and on the other hand you can just take on d5, and the problem is that black will have a lot of pressure along this diagonal due to the strong bishop on b7. So opening up isn't really something good for the white player. So let's go back. So knight to d5 was not played in the game. Knight to a4 was played. This is putting pressure against the bishop on c5. And believe it or not, but calculating all the implications of knight to f3 is not that simple, and we will see why in a moment. So here, what I calculated was, let's remove this, knight to f3 check, king h1, queen probably to h4, not h5, you don't want to get into this pin, would be unpleasant. The knight would be pinned then. So therefore queen to h4, and there was a particular line I couldn't find a solution for a while. Here after h3 obviously, because black is already threatening mate on h2, so h3, and here I couldn't find anything for a while. And then I thought, okay, what does black want to achieve here? And it's not so difficult. Black wants to play queen to g3. And the question is, how do we make queen g3 work? Because you'd play queen g3, white takes, and white is up a queen. And you might have seen it, it's bishop takes e3. And this bishop cannot be taken. And I was very glad to find this move. It took me a while, but I was able to find this move and then go for knight f3 check. So if the pawn takes, then comes queen to g3. And the trick now is taking here does not work because of e takes f3 and rook g1 seems strong, but just runs into mate in one here after queen takes h3. And these rook g1 ideas are something you or the black player should have watched out for, because the bishop and the rook here would be very powerful. But fortunately it's not working. And other lines are also not working. So for example, after taking, you don't need to take on f3 immediately. You can also first take on h3, and after king g1 go queen g3, king h1, and now take, and still it's not working, same idea. And both lines are winning, by the way. So here, whatever happens, rook takes f3 or bishop takes f3 doesn't really make a difference, because bishop takes f3, rook takes f3, and in the end we see, okay, this rook on d1 is very weak, so queen takes. And apart from the fact that white has already lost a lot of pawns, white is currently up 2 pawns, and now after rook takes, well, it's much more material. Black is up 2 exchanges and 2 pawns and is completely winning here. Oh, completely losing for white. This is one line you had to see before entering this knight to f3. The other thing is the obvious, g takes f3. And this is very important. Why? After e takes f3, bishop d3, it looks like the attack has come to an end. What should black play? Well, black has a resource, bishop to d6. And now white cannot escape from the mating attack. So black is threatening mate in 1. Whatever you do, h3 takes. And now choose where you mate, either h2 or g2, completely winning. So now let's go back and check one last line. So what if simply if bishop takes? Well, then pawn takes. This is threatening mate. Pawn g3, and now very simple, queen h5, queen h3, and g2 mate, and the white player can't do anything against this. Even faster is queen to g4, because now even if h4 was played, you just enter the position and then mate on g2. And this is just one example of a very strong knight and how you can use knights to win more games. I hope you liked the video. If you are interested how another tactical idea, the battery, is working, then click on this video. Thank you for your attention.
Hey, check this video out to make sure that you get more important information to bring your chess to the next level.